Go ahead and have a seat, guys. Man, I love that song, so I just kind of got lost in it real quick. Hope you guys are doing well. Who had a really good Valentine's Day? Anybody? Yeah, that's right. Jason had a kid. Who can top that, right? Nobody, that's right. Jason had the best. Yeah, I had a pretty good Valentine's Day. We went out for dinner. Carrabba's. Or no, where'd we go? That was like 4 weeks ago. I'm channeling a memory. I don't even know where it came from. Longhorn, that's right. We had steak. So, still good. Good Italian, good steak. Except, for some reason, I wrote, Happy Valentine's Day, dear, on her Facebook, and she said, yucky, was her comment. So I'm like, what? She said she listened to Love Stinks on Pandora. I don't know. For some reason, my wife had it out against Valentine's Day this year. But, I enjoyed it. So, hope it was good. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey, if this is your first time out or you've been just coming out recently, want to thank you and let you know, just how excited we are that you are here. You could be a lot of other different places right now, doing a lot of other different things, but we're glad you're here. We care about you. We just want to let you know how much we appreciate you being here. But, regardless of how you judge your Valentine's Day, we know how things in our lives, sometimes we just judge them, right? Whether it was good or bad, beautiful or horrible, right or wrong, we judge things all the time, right? That was a good Super Bowl, I thought, right? That was a good, fun game to watch. Conversely, we know what it looks like to watch a horrible game. Like, even though some people might say that Michigan Ohio State game this year was a good game, it was horrible. I hated it. Because my measuring stick by which I judged that was we got to win, right? Like with food, whether it be Italian or steak or Mexican or whatever. Like we know what it's like to have a good meal and a good time. On the flip side, we know what it's like to measure a horrible meal. We all know what bad Chinese tastes like, right? Like you guys know that? It's like you taste it twice. You're just like, oh man, I can't. Ugh. We know what it's like. So we have these things that we judge. Good music. Right? Is anybody watching American Idol? I know Ed asked this at the advance. Is anybody watching American Idol this year? Raise your hand. Don't do this. Like, it's okay to watch American Idol. It's good entertainment. Every other year I flip from watching it to not watching it. I watch it and I'm like, that was just horrible. I'm not going to watch it next year. But then the year after I watch it again. So I'm on an on year right now. And I'm watching it. And I kind of judge good and bad musically based off, can I do that? If I can sing like that, then you must not be that good, because I know my deficiency in singing. I had a dream one time that I was in heaven. Like, I got to heaven, and there was this cloud with, like, white light, and I just inherently knew in my dream it's God. Like, you just know stuff in your dream. Oh, that's God. I said, God, why, my first question, why did you create me with a singing voice? Like, why can't I sing? And his answer, legitimately, in my dream was, I created you with that voice so people could laugh and have humor at you singing. And I'm like, all right. And I just floated back down, woke up. I'm like, well, I hope that wasn't real, because that's kind of, okay, all right. Well, I have purpose now with my singing to make people laugh. So I'm sorry if I distracted this side of the room during worship, but God loved it. So, so I take that kind of, that measuring stick, right, with what's good and what's bad. And, actually I took that one time, so I'm married. I've been married 3.5 years, and just when you get married, you think it is fun. It's amazingly fun. But my wife was a vocal major when she started out at Ohio State, right? In music, she can sing. She's beautiful. She's got a beautiful voice. I envy you, honey. I really do, because I bring humor. I can't sing obviously with my voice, but I decided to bring that infallible logic. Like, hey, if I can do something musically, like, I must be better than her if she can't do it, right? So I just created this weird, I don't know, just run of notes. I don't even know if they're notes. I'm tone deaf, so you guys can be the judge. But basically I was like, honey, we should do a little battle. Like, if you can do what I'm about to do, then you're a good singer. If you can't, then I must be better than you. And she's like laughing, because obviously it doesn't make sense. But in my moment, this was my moment to shine. So I'm just, I just do that exactly like that, wasn't it? It was exactly. And here's what she does. Oh, and I said, oh, champion, like, crown me right now. You can't do it, so I must be a better singer than you. You guys want to try it? No? Okay. Because I wouldn't want to shame you in front of all your friends, but no. But obviously that was not as quite infallible logic as I would like to believe. But we know what it's like to judge, okay, that was good, that was bad. I like that. I didn't like that. That was right. That was wrong. We all have some kind of internal measuring stick by which we judge everything. And if we take a step back, apart from the individual things, from sports, music, and look at the world as a whole, I think you and I know what it's like to see good things, right? Like the Mother Teresas of the world who just, man, that's a selfless, that's noble, that's honorable. We attach these words that mean just inherently good. And then we look at the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world, or just the Holocaust and these horrible things, and we go, there's just something in me that just tips the scale, and I say, that's wrong. There's these horrific atrocities. There's something in you and me that when we look at these things, we don't know what the scale is because it's kind of different. It's not, oh, my taste buds didn't like it. It's just something in us that goes, yes, that's wrong. Yes, this is good. So what is that? Like, what is that internal measuring stick, this internal compass that points us to right and wrong? Well, this week we're starting off a series of Does Evil Exist? This is the first part in the series. We're going to talk about evil and these wrongs that we feel. I don't think anybody has a problem with the rights. Nobody's going to say, well, there's just too much good in the world, and give me some evil. But it's the evil that we have trouble with, right? So let's look at that and how we judge that. And let's see what the Bible has to say about evil, because it has a lot to say. And I hope that after tonight, we're in a better place with our understanding of evil and just this measuring stick. So if you look in your bulletins, we do have 3 points, right? The measuring stick that we're about to dive into is going to be in Romans 1. So turn there. Go ahead and start turning there with me to Romans chapter 1. We're going to start in verse 28. Second point is going to be, what's God's take on evil? We're going to be in Romans chapter 2. And then to follow the sequence, we're going to be in Romans chapter 3 for the third point. And what's that mean to us? So we're going to be starting off in Romans chapter 1. As I said, verse 28 to 32. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this. Romans is in the New Testament for you those still looking. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans. Chapter 1, verse 28 says, and since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. So here's Paul talking in Romans about they, them, those evils out there that you and I witness. Just says, man, there's evil out there. And maybe you're actually the reverse of this. This says because they did not acknowledge God, He gave them over to be full of these evils. But isn't it true sometimes? Sometimes we see these evils and we're like, man, how do I reconcile that with the good God? It's hard for me to acknowledge a good God with this nastiness out there. And maybe you doubt. Maybe you're like, I believe, but help me with my unbelief, because I can't. How do you do these two? Or maybe you just flat out reject them. Maybe evil has invaded your life to the point where you're like, you know what? I just totally reject the idea. I won't believe. I won't believe. But he talks about they and them given over to these things. And here's a question we've got to ask about evil. Does it exist? Does evil really exist? Not in the sense of, okay, it's a word, so yes, it must exist. But let's get a little bit of academic. This is not my strong suit, by the way, so I'd had to do a lot of studying up front on this, just to be able to have the conversation. Logically, let's look at evil. Is it subjective or is it objective? And if you need a little help, what those mean, let's take, when I grew up, I had a car, right? I had a red Sunfire. It is a convertible. It's a black top. Had all red interior though. Like the cloth was red. This thing I thought it was smoking at the time. I turned 16. I got this red Sunfire. I even cruised around high school. I took the stick shift. It was a stick shift. Took the top of it and put a red neon light in there. And just at night I was like, yeah! That little sound system in the back. I mean, I thought it was hot stuff. Man, it was a nice car. I forget. I wrecked it. That's where it went. I forgot about that. I wrecked it, and then I could have fixed it, but the clutch was going out. That's a little rabbit trail. But I had this red car, right? And after I got rid of it, somebody came up and told me, like, "Oh yeah, I remember that car. That's kind of like a girl car, right?" And I'm like, it's like not like a car can have a sexual orientation, but like girly type of car, right? This was a type of car that girls drive, and I was taken back. I'm like, what? That car was awesome. What are you talking about? They're like, well, I mean, and if you guys, men, drove Sunfires, like, I feel for you. Don't let anybody tell you that. Don't let anybody tell you that. That car was smoking. I was like, are you serious? They had red everywhere. I had the neon thing. Did you see the neon thing? It wasn't girly. It was awesome. Plus, it had the sound system. Oh, it was amazing. But we have subjective and objective in that example, right? Subjective was, oh, it was a girl car. It wasn't a girl car. It was my opinion versus their opinion. You can't really find truth in that. Like, it's just, you are entitled to yours and I'm entitled to mine. However wrong that may be. I don't care what you say. I mean, got me the hottest girl in school, you know? Got me, obviously something worked. Maybe you guys out there say, well, because it was a girl car, she was attracted to it. No. But, the objective part in that, though, is it was red. Right? Objective means either it was or it wasn't. It's not based on opinion, it's based on fact. Either it was red or it wasn't red. So in that's what subjective and objective means. And when you look at evil, is it your opinion? Do you look at something and say, like, something like the Holocaust, go, well, you know, that's just their opinion that it was evil. It could be somebody else's opinion that it wasn't evil. Is that what evil is? Or is it, hey, there's this measuring stick that exists in you, everybody, not just even in this room, not just in the state or nation, but the whole world. There's an objective truth that is, this is wrong and this is right. And it doesn't even include everybody right now. This is all time, all places, transcends cultures, people, and time. There's an objective measuring stick that is either right or wrong. There's evil and there's good. And here's why it's important to ask that question. Because if it is objective, every law is basically a law, right? Like, it's either breaking the law or it's following the law. And every law has a lawgiver. Somebody that is objectively given this law. And if there's a moral law inside of you and me that is objectively true, or there's objective wrongs, then it has to come from somewhere. It has to come from an objective lawgiver, and that objective lawgiver is God. If it's not objective, if it's subjective, if it's just relative, then it actually doesn't point to God. So here's why so which one is it? It's important to ask this question. It's important to wrestle with this and just get a basic understanding of what evil is. Because you can say it's subjective. You can take that stance. You can say that, hey, you know, I feel like this is wrong, but hey, you're entitled to your opinion. You know, we can agree to disagree. But I would submit to you that it's actually not possible to live your life like that. If you meet somebody that says, hey, I believe evil is relative. I mean, there's not objective truth to what is evil and what is not. That's okay. Cut in front of them in line. And they would say, hey, you can't do that. Says who? Well, that's not fair. Says who? What's fair for you is not just necessarily fair. You have no basis to make an argument on what is justice, on what is fair, what is right, or what is wrong. There was a story about a guy who actually wrote a paper. He was in college. Put yourself in this situation. You spend hours, countless hours, researching a paper that you're going to argue your point of view. So this guy's point of view was that morality is relative. There's no objective truth. He turned it in. Hours and hours of research. Very, very well written at a prestigious university. Professor gets it, grades it in a week, gets a paper back. F. Guy livid. How many of you would be livid? I mean, hours. Like, no, you stupid professor. You have a job, but you don't understand how much work I did in this. So he's livid. He runs into the professor's office. Professor, what are you talking about? Tell me why you give an F. He goes, I just disagree with you. You can't say that. You're supposed to grade on different criteria whether or not I write based off your opinion. He goes, says who? If you're telling me that there's some objective truth that I have to follow when grading your paper, then that actually disproves your whole paper. If I can't subjectively, relatively give whatever grade I feel like is right, then either your paper is wrong or I'm allowed to do that. So you can take the stance that truth is relative, But you can't practically live your life like that. Because we feel differently, don't we? That when you hear the news, man, the news is just horrible these days, right? There's like one good story and everything else is murder. I was actually reading on MSN.com, and there's a story of this 30-year-old man who had abducted this 7-year-old girl. And not only did he kidnap her, he molested, beat, and then killed her, and then dumped her body in a trash can. And they found her body at in a garbage dump. And they caught him. And in my heart, verse 28 just popped out. The base mind to do what ought not to be done. That there is an ought not in me and in you that says that ought not to happen. I don't care what culture you come from, what time period you're from, that should never happen. And it just in me, I'm just like, that shouldn't be. When you look at the pictures of the Holocaust, something in you, this measuring stick that is this objective truth, say, I don't care. It's never right to do that. Ever. And I'm not just saying that to say, well, okay, but you're entitled in your opinion. You should believe like I do because that is truth and that is evil. We feel objective, moral, evil. When it's been violated, we know it. So evil does exist. You and I know it. We feel it. I think it's important to point out, there's this detective guy who's out in California. His name is Jim. This guy started his detective work. He's been doing it for like 30 years. He started off as an atheist. And he's not just a detective. He's like a cold case guy, right? So he kicks down the door, and there's just chaos, blood, bodies everywhere. His job is to literally get in and say, what are the facts? What's the evidence? Homicide, suicide, what is this? Like, I've got to look at every detail. So he starts off as an atheist. And early in his career, he's getting training, right, on how to do things like the lie detector tests. So they're like, hey, to train you on this lie detector test, we want you to actually be the mock subject. We want you to sit in a chair so we can show you how it works. He's like, okay, whatever. And so started off, they're like, okay, so people lie. You and I, we lie because we're nervous of the social consequences. This is what they're telling the guy. So when we're nervous, when we lie, our voice emits like a certain wave. Because we're nervous. Because we know we're lying. Because we're scared of the outcome. He's like, the lie detector test measures those waves. The guy's like, okay, that makes sense. It says, okay, so sit down in the chair. Guy sits down. They hook him up, wire him up, and they're like, okay, in order to start this, we need to ask you like a base question. Like, we're going to ask you to lie so we can measure the response. Okay? Are you Donald Duck? Say yes. Yes, I'm Donald Duck. And the wave came out. And he says, in that moment, I really questioned what they were doing. Did anybody catch it? If you and I say truth is relative, and we're wrong to lie because of the social consequences, then them telling him to lie without any social consequences shouldn't have admitted anything. There's no consequences. Why would anything come out? Why would nervousness come out in us when there's nothing behind it socially that would condemn us? And he says, this is what came out. He said, my mind was searching for answers on why this was true. Why, despite the lack of social consequences, I still was nervous and lying. And he read Romans 2. I'm going to read this for us. Don't turn there. Just listen. It's Romans 2, verses 14 through 16. For when Gentiles who do not have the law, by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them. That despite knowing what is right or wrong, or even acknowledging God and the fact that a moral law exists, it's written on our hearts. That we get nervous when we lie because we know we shouldn't lie, regardless of the consequences. It's objective. It's amazing just how much you and I have a measuring stick in us that is from God. And it's interesting to note that moral law, it's wrong to lie because it's God's imprint in us, His creation. It's His character. God doesn't lie. So when you lie, that's a violation of the moral law. It's a violation of that law to show a lack of love and kill, murder, steal, because God is love. God is the law. God's imprint, God's character in us is the moral law. We'll get back to that here in a second. So we have this law, right? Does evil exist? Yes. We feel it. We know it. We sense it. But what's God's take on it? So this is the second point in your bulletin. What's God's take on evil? When I look at just that story on MSN, and I feel angst, I feel like, oh, that ought not be true. How do you think God feels? It's His law that people are violating. They, them, those people who do all those lists of things that Paul was saying in Romans. That's violation against God. If it breaks my heart, man, just imagine how God feels. And this law that maybe might cause you to question when you see evil, you might just say, man, there's evil out there. I don't know about a good God. Actually points to God. The fact that evil exists, the fact that we have a compass in us that objectively points to truth, is a testament to God. That should drive you to God, not away from God. And God feels the same exact way, if not more, than you and I do when we see that angst inside of us, that ought not be true. So I would encourage you, if you have those struggles, if you have those doubts, those questions, when you see evil, don't run from God. That's not a barrier. That should drive you to God. Because God feels, here we are in chapter 2 about evil. Chapter 2 in Romans, verse 2, is we know that the judgment of God rightly falls on those who practice such things. And to that we say, amen. Absolutely. Those people out there who do those horrible, horrific things, they deserve justice. That's the angst we feel in us when we see a violation of God's law, that morality of, that's just horrible. I don't think anybody has a problem in here saying that deserves some justice. That, you're going to break the law, there's some payment for it, right? We exist in a society that has penalty if you break the law, and that should happen. In verses 6 through 10, I'm going to summarize. Basically say this, that here's how the justice is served. For those who do good, they get eternal life. We're like, yes. Like, those are the bad people. Like, we're straight. Like, the bad people should get wrath and fury, which is exactly what verses 6 through 10 say. The bad people, those who do evil, deserve wrath and fury. They've violated God's law. God is absolutely just in giving them what they deserve. The good people get eternal life. To that, no problems, right? No problems. Until you step back into verse 5. But because of your hard and impenitent heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. So Paul, what are you saying here, man? First, in chapter 1, you're talking about they, them, and I have no problem saying, man, those are some evil people. But now you're saying not they, but me? Us? We? Absolutely. We store up. They has become we. They and we. When Jesus came on the scene in Matthew chapter 5, and He gives a Sermon on the Mount, He breaks down and says, hey, you guys have heard it said, right? And you know it, that when people commit murder, that's a sin against God, right? And they deserve judgment. To which you and I, if we're back in the day, listen to that, we're like, absolutely, amen. Those people are wrong and horrific and atrocious. Yeah, but He goes on to say, if you've even held a grudge against somebody, you're guilty of murder in your heart. To which we're like, that sucks. Right? Well, and then we go back to our way of judging, right? Well, this is my measuring stick, how I like a sport, like I know good and bad. Here's how I used to judge good and evil. I don't kill people, so I'm not evil. That's not God's measuring stick. That's not God's morality. God is saying, yeah, if you've even held a grudge, you're guilty of murder. And then He goes on to say, yeah, you've heard it said, if you commit adultery, that's a sin against God, right? To which they're like, yeah, you should never, violate a marriage and go and take what is not yours, and that's just evil, and that's wrong, and everybody in this room would say, yeah, that's wrong. But if you've ever looked at somebody lustfully, Jesus says, you're guilty of committing adultery in your heart. So Paul is absolutely right that they and we, there's no line that separates us. And that the justice that they deserve, which we're very willing to give, actually should fall on us. To which, in my mind, and to tell me, in your heart, there's something you just go, no, I'm not willing to take that leap. See, we want to give justice, but like receive grace and mercy. Which we're hypocrites. I'm a hypocrite. They deserve this because they violated God's law, but I did that. I deserve grace and mercy. But God is not just if His wrath and fury pours out on them for breaking the law and doesn't pour it out on us. Both are deserved. Absolutely 100%. You and I, just like Paul says, not just they, are storing up wrath and fury for every single time we sin. And I don't think anybody in this room can say we're not murderous adulterers in God's eyes. Absolutely. I am, you are, we've all fallen short. So, couple errors that I want to kind of dig into. I don't want to just say, okay, we suck and move on. We got to take a root here, right? I want to unpack this. How deep does this rabbit hole go? And I've actually believed two lies in my life that I'm pretty sure you guys have at least believed at one point. First lie is, I'm not that bad. Right? I've already told you, I think something's in us that when we see people, we go, hey, because I don't kill people, I must not be as bad as Hitler. Right? So that's evil, and I'm something less. We've already seen how that's not God's. But you go back, just not what Jesus says in Matthew. If you go back to Genesis 8:21, after the flood, and Noah offers a sacrifice to God. God sees or smells the aroma and says it's pleasing. He goes, never again will I wipe off the face of the earth, even though that their hearts are evil from birth. And you and I grow up, and we have parents, my parents in this room, who raised me. And what do we hear? Yo, you're so good. You're a good little boy. You're a good little girl. You're so boy. I mean, that's just not what this says. Like, from youth, we're evil. I mean, we'd have a lot more psychological problems, I think, if they said, you're an evil little boy, Dustin. Like, go play, you little demon. Like, that would be some psychological issues. I don't know if I'd be up here. But it's actually more true than what we believe. We walk into it going, I'm good. Like, I'm not bad. But the Bible is saying, no. You have evil desires. You and I have evil desires that crop up in here. That if we're not honest about, I don't think any of this applies to us. We might be living a lie. Because when you and I, you guys ever picked like fruit from a tree? Ever? I mean, some of you from the city, so trees don't even exist. Probably from where you're from. These just concrete jungles, right? But I come from the country, and I remember one time I bit into this apple off an apple tree, and it was so good. It was juicy. It's like not processed. It was just all natural. It was really good. But it's like you and I. If we go to a place where apples are coming off a tree, it's an apple tree, right? I mean, it's not an orange tree. There are oranges grow on trees, yes. Making sure my logic was sound there. Yes. So you have an orange tree and you have an apple tree. If you go to an orange tree and you get an orange, it's not an apple tree, it's an orange. Like the fruit dictates what kind of tree it is, right? So if you get caught in a lie that, hey, I'm just a good person, sometimes I just do bad things. If you're a good person, why do you do bad things? Like, we have to grasp the reality that the Bible says and that Jesus says, that we are bad people. That's why we do bad things. Like, it works out there. Like, yeah, a tree that has apples is an apple tree. Well, we have bad fruit. Inherently, there's evil that resides in you and I. And I get caught into a lie, sucked into a lie that says, I'm pretty good. And we'll get to why that's important later on. But just know that it's there. It's in you and it's in me. The second one is where this part here in Romans 2 talks about wrath and fury to us. Has anybody ever heard God loves the sinner but hates the sin? Raise your hand if you've heard that. Okay. If you haven't, now you have. So, when you grow up, God hates sin. He's just, right? If He hates that, He's got to hate the sin that we commit. No problem. But He loves the sinner. And to be sure, God loves us. God is love. But in Psalms, I want to read something to you. You don't have to turn there, but in Psalms chapter 5, verses 4 and 5 says this. For the evildoers cannot dwell with you. You hate all who do evil. Now that, which is in Scripture, which we hold to be true, directly conflicts with what you and I and all the hands that were raised, which is, I would say, 95 to 100% of us have heard. That, well, God doesn't hate me, He hates my sin. Then why does it say, you hate all who do evil? Like, if God is just, He has to hate that just as much as He hates what is in here. And that's hard to take. And these two lies that I get sucked into believing, we're going to circle back to them in a second, but it exists. That there is stuff, there's this junk in here that exists out there. And God is just as wrathful and just in dealing with this as He is that. So, we'll come back to that here in a second. As we transition to this last point, what this means for you and me, I want to connect the first 2 points here for a second. So we said there's evil, right? That's that measuring stick. God's character in us, His creation, that we objectively know, what violates His character and what doesn't. In 2 Peter 1:4 it says, for the evil, or for the corruption that is caused in this world stems from evil desires. I don't think we'd have a problem saying that, right? That, yeah, there's crap in the world that is just wrong. And it comes from people desiring to rule over one another, to kill one another. And those are evil desires. So yeah, that leads to corruption. Mark 7, though, says this. That evil desires come from where? From within, the heart of man. So that which is out there connects with the second point of it's in here. So if you need scripture to tie it to, if you're like, Dustin, I ain't picking up what you're putting down, man. That sounds like I buy evil out there, but in here, I'm good. I'm going to believe what my mama told me. Like, just look at scripture. Out there is a result of 1 billion people, 6 billion people, 7 billion people that have the same root problem that you and I have. A heart that's prone to wander, to sin against God, to violate His moral code. And this is what it means for you and me. Romans chapter 3, we'll start off from verse 22. Shouldn't have to turn more than a page or so. Romans chapter 3, verse 22, I'm going to read it to 28. It says, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. For there is no distinction. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And all are justified by His grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by His blood to be received by faith. This was to show God's righteousness because in His divine forbearance He had passed over former sins. It was to show His righteousness at the present time so that He may be made just in the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. Then what becomes of our boasting? It is excluded. By what kind of law? By a law of works? No, but by a law of faith. For we hold that one is justified by faith apart from works of the law. So that when you and I see evil out there, when you and I say, yeah, there's evil out there and it has this angst in us, and that's the moral compass of God's character in us, but when we see evil in ourselves and we go, I feel this guilt because I have violated. I have done what I know to be wrong. Don't you feel that guilt then? And you go, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try harder. And I'm going to swear I'll never do it again. I've sworn countless times that I would never find myself doing what I found myself doing. I've swore to God. I said, God, I promise. And I've recommitted. And you know what I found? Recommitment leads to later recommitment. Leads to later recommitment, because I am just in a cycle of sin. There's some evil that's in my heart, and I feel like Paul does in Romans. Later on in Romans, Paul says in chapter 7, so I find it to be a law, an absolute truth, that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. That despite my desires to follow God, I just can't get rid of it. I can't shake it. Maybe you feel like that. So maybe you're in a cyclical sin, or you just feel this angst out there and this guilt in here, and you don't know how to shake it. When you read this, it says you're not justified by your ability to keep the law. You're justified as a gift, not because of you, but in spite of you. That no matter what you and I do, no matter how far we've fallen short, and we've all fallen short, that We are justified by faith, not by works, not by, hey, you got a C+, you passed, good job. It's not like that when we get to heaven. You're justified by faith alone. What boasting? I'm a good guy. I'm pretty good. I don't kill people. I don't do those horrific things. No. Boasting is excluded. You're justified. You and I are justified by faith alone. So my advice to you, if you feel like you're stuck and you just try and you try harder and, well, that cropped up, so I got to try harder. Try to stop trying. Like, labor to stop laboring. And understand that your position with God is not based on your practice with God. That your position is set in one person alone, Christ Jesus and His blood. It says it's propitiation, which means the wrath and fury that they deserve and that I deserve because of my habitual disobedience to God. That wrath and fury is it's coming out like a flood, and it's deserved, right? Like I deserve it all. It gets directed to Jesus on the cross. That day, on the cross, Jesus took my wrath and fury, your wrath and fury, if you have your faith in Him. And He took it. So here's what it means if you buy into the lies that we talked about earlier. If you think you're good, if you and I think, hey, I'm just a naturally good person. I got a t-shirt and my mama told me when I grew up I was always a good person. Like, you're going to look at the cross and go, man, I really don't need saved. Like, I'm pretty good. Like, I got it together. Like, thanks. Like, I don't know if you guys had this shirt when you grew up. I had the Jesus is my homeboy shirt. Anybody else have that? It's okay. You might not want to raise your hand that high now because it's like 10 years ago. But I had the Jesus is my homeboy shirt. And I had this all lined up. People are like, oh, I can't wait to get to heaven. Like, I'm going to be singing, like, and I'm going to be bowing. I'm like, are you serious? Jesus is my homeboy. I'm going to get up there and we're going to have this like handshake. It's going to be like really epic. Like, we're going to put all these things and it'll be clicks and we're just going to hug because we're tight. Because Jesus is my homeboy. Like, He's my friend. Because I had bought into the lie that I really didn't need Him. That apart from Him, I am screwed. Like, I fall so short that my only reaction when I see how holy and how exalted and how glorious He is to fall on my face and worship. And that is the only thing that you and I can do when we look at a just, glorious God. The law, His imprint in us, is to show how we can't make it. Paul goes on to lay this out in Romans that the law is there to show us how big the gap is between God's character and us. That's why the law exists. In you and in me, it's not to judge them out there for being evil, but it's to show us, man, we have no hope unless it's in Jesus. And I would encourage you that if you haven't put your faith in Jesus, it's not just, well, you might want to think about it. Like, the wrath and fury has been poured out and will be poured out. Like, and you and I know that we're guilty of sinning against God. So if it's not Jesus that's taking it, there's only one person left to take it. It's like, I would urge you with all that you have to consider trusting in Jesus. And as you look, as we close, I'm going to pray and I'll lead us out, but as you look at the cross and as you maybe go back and 4 months from now, this message you might not even remember this. But as you see things and you hear things that are just evil, just violate, that you don't just leave it out there. That you recognize that exists in here. It comes from within. It's in my heart and in your heart. And as you deal with that angst and questioning God and doubting God, because maybe evil has invaded your life personally and you just don't know what to do, that at the cross, God says something about evil. That He doesn't tell us why there's evil. He tells us why it's not. It's not because He doesn't care. It's not because He hasn't gone out of His way to make our problem His problem. He has said something about evil. And yes, evil exists. And He is not abolished by evil. He is not made obsolete by evil. He is the solution to evil. And that through evil, God is actually the only reasonable explanation that I've found. So I would encourage you, wherever you are, as you walk away, just to be cognizant of the fact that out there is in here too. So, and God is not abolished by evil, but at the cross, God basically gives a solution to it. So, bow your heads, pray with me, the band will come back up and we'll lead back out. So, Father God, I remember Wednesday being in Bible study, dealing with this question that Christine brought up about why you love us. Why does God love us? I don't know. I don't have that answer. I wish I had that answer to say in my sermon to give these people something to walk away with. I don't know why you love us, God. We don't deserve it. God, you are glorious. You choose to love us despite us. God, you are so awesome, God. I hope that my praise and worship to you is beautiful to your ears, God. I want you to know how thankful I am that despite my evil, God, you came and rescued me. That says something about you. And God, more than us being Christian Eeyores out there just on the ground low and talking around because we're evil, God, that we would be able to praise you louder because of it. Like, God, because of you, we have hope. Evil has been overcome. God, that we wouldn't kick ourselves, but God, we would praise you. God, thank you for who you are. I don't know why you love me, God. I have no clue, but I thank you that you do. And with all of my life, I will never stop praising you because I know who I am. And I know who you are. And I praise you, God. You are glorious. I am not. And I just thank you for just being who you are and just giving us a measuring stick and the ought to that we feel when we look at this world, God. And I pray that we remember it points to you. In your Son's name, amen.